Right. So my name is Langley. I'm from Oklahoma, but I lived in Kansas City um, for like the past 8 years. Um, and in the past year, I've traveled between the West Coast and the East Coast, just kind of doing the glass thing, getting more involved in the glass community. And I'm a mixed media artist, so I work with glass because I love it a lot. But I also work with a lot of other materials incorporated.
How long have you been doing glass?
Um, since my senior year of high school, so that was 2011 is when I started.
How cool. So, so 9 years?
9 years. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. And I started with kiln formed glass. Um, in high school, I was in AP 3D my senior year, so I was one of two students in that class. So we kind of just got to do whatever we wanted. So my high school had four circle kilns, and so one was allocated just to be my kiln. And
Nice.
my teacher taught me how to use cones because it was manual, and how to fuse and slump glass in there. And then I made my own molds and fused glass by myself. And then I just like one day I sat a glass sculpture on her desk, and she was just like, "Wow, okay." And I was like, "I like this."
So for more recently, you were talking about you're at the Chrysler now, and we're kind of going into maybe your experience as a non-binary person in the glass world. And you said that you had to kind of train a lot of people there, teach a lot of people there what it meant. Maybe you can go into that.
Yeah. So when I went to Chrysler, and I mean, I kind of have to, since I came out as non-binary, I've kind of had to teach people what that means, in all walks of my life. But when I went to the Chrysler, I was the first non-binary person who worked there for them, and I was an assistant, part of the assistantship program. So it was interesting. Definitely starting at square one. There were definitely people there who like had met non-binary people in their lives. But then I feel like there was also some people who had not ever met a non-binary person. Um, so yeah, I started at square one, but they were very open to me and supportive. So in the course of the time I was there, I was only there for 2 months until the pandemic hit and the studio shut down. But in that time, they changed some of the bathrooms to gender neutral, and I had all kinds of people who were like, started off when I first got there. Every single person was misgendering me, and at first, you know, I fight it kind of so much in my life that at a certain point, I stopped trying to correct people because it just gets exhausting for me. So that's kind of what it was like the first couple weeks. I just didn't say much because I was like, I'm just trying to deal with like moving to this new place and like I
It's
don't
already
really
a
want
lot.
yeah, don't want to like fight for my identity with these people. But when I did finally speak up about it a few weeks in, I mean, it was just met with like a wave of love from everyone. They were like, "Oh my
That's
God, we're so sorry. Like, we're not trying to like, make you feel uncomfortable." And um, there was like a staff meeting that I spoke up and just told everyone like, I'm here to inform you guys. Like, if you have questions about like why I use neutral pronouns, or what that means and how to use inclusive language, because I think inclusive language is so important for society as a whole, and especially in working environments. Um, and I had people come ask me questions. I had people start correcting themselves when they did use the wrong pronouns. And I like taught a few people there how to, just correct yourself and move on rather than like stopping and being like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, like I know you're sorry. Just correct yourself, and it
we
helps.
don't need to we don't need to dwell on it.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, and it helps your brain too. If you just make the correction, it'll help your brain make that correction later on. It's way easier. So
hmm
um, yeah, it was definitely like kind of a rough start, but uh, it turned out really well. Um,
So it sounds like overall you feel like they've been pretty supportive and you've just kind of had to open their eyes to another realm. That's good.
Yeah. So, which, I mean, it's kind of in contrast with like earlier in the year, 2019, I was at Pilchuck, where Pilchuck I was met with, you know, overwhelming acceptance. Like, I had been at Pilchuck, so Pat is my middle name. And I had been at Pilchuck when I was still using my first name, like years and years ago. But it was really nice because when I showed up as Pat, I was Pat. And it was like they all understood, even the people who had all known me before. You know, I still got misgendered there because I get misgendered everywhere. But it was definitely a very low percent. It was really weird after I left Pilchuck and like went back into the real world.
Yeah.
It was like so daunting. My dysphoria went from like 0 to 100 because it was like I didn't realize how much people were, you know, accepting me as who I am and not trying to label me as a woman, even though I have a chest. And that.
Yeah, I feel like one of my first experiences being more aware of like non-binary or queer, maybe non-binary is at Pilchuck, and I feel like Pilchuck has done a really good job of, and other craft schools too. I've only really been to Pilchuck and Penland, but I've noticed they've done a really good job, like having all gender bathrooms and like, I know at Penland they will the first day they'll have you write your name on a name tag and put your pronouns below it, and the director will also announce herself as I am so and so, and I go by she her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of already sets the expectation of we're aware of this and getting like the students more aware of it. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, I think that's a really underrated inclusive language thing is like even people who aren't queer in a, you know, introductory setting, like them saying their pronouns, it really sets the tone. Like it's not weird if someone is like, oh, my pronouns are something other than what I look like, because, you know, it's just, it makes it an open conversation, it includes everyone in it, you know.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting because I'll have people ask me what my pronouns are, and I'm like, oh, I've never had to think about that before. Like, I'm not on that side where I'm trying to go against what maybe people assume upon me.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. So do you feel like you've talked about two experiences in the glass world with kind of your identity, but do you feel like you've had any other experiences that stick out to you, maybe more in the glass world or even not the glass world, just maybe as an artist or kind of, you know, you in this space here?
Yeah. Well, so my glass education is pretty, it's only come from so many places. I went to school for art. I got a degree in sculpture, but they didn't have any glass. So I did film form glass while I was there because they had that in the ceramics program. But so all of my hot glass education came from Tulsa Glassblowing School here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, my hometown. Sorry, can you hear me still with the mower going next door? Let's see. Okay, so yeah, I went to school for art. I got a degree in sculpture, but they only had like film form glass there. So all of my hot glass education has come from Tulsa Glassblowing School, mostly here in my hometown. So yeah, that's the place probably that, you know, it's like nearest and dearest to my heart because it's like my home studio. And they definitely knew me way before I like came out publicly and started using my middle name and like they them pronouns. And being from Tulsa, you know, pretty conservative here, and so I was pretty worried about like the switch over at the studio and like it could be weird. But you know, they're my friends, so they all just they slip up sometimes calling me the wrong name, but they'll correct themselves and they do the best job they can. And they've handled it really well as well. So
Good.
that's pretty much most of my experiences with the glass community. It's a very supportive community. And so I think that once you speak up about, if you're feeling comfortable or something like that, like if you speak up about it, people respond really well. So I've probably had more trouble with like losing old friends and stuff who like don't want to accept me for who I am versus glass community has been like my savior in that. They've been so open. And, sorry.
It's not a like a Skype interview without a pet.
Yeah.
Have you felt like there's been any moments where you've kind of felt afraid to speak up?
I mean, I'd say definitely like the first couple weeks I was at Chrysler, like I was talking about, some of that was fear of why I wasn't really speaking up. Some of it was just like I was dealing with other stuff, but yeah, it was kind of crazy because whenever I did finally speak up about it at the Chrysler, I did it in front of everyone, a staff meeting, and then when I walked out of the staff meeting, I like burst into tears in the hallway or in like the stairwell, and my friend is like giving me a hug. And I like told some people later about it, like, yeah, I cried a little, and they were like, what? Why? And I was like, that was really intense. Like for me, like, it's hard to, especially as like a non-binary person, like I know that trans people face a lot of the same issues with having to kind of like fight for their identity against the grain. But I think, like trans individuals, if they are able to physically transition, it helps with that a lot more. They have to fight a lot less and they get to kind of sit back and just like be who they are, and people perceive them as the gender that they feel. But I think for non-binary, like, it's a constant fight, and like I don't have money to physically transition or like, so I think I'll have to fight for it for a long time.
Yeah.
Just like it's harder to explain to people. Like it's not just like, oh, I'm a man trapped in a woman's body. It's like I'm neither of those things. So I'm like, what? Like, of course you are. I'm like, actually no. Like, there's more than two genders. There always has been. Our society just like doesn't normalize it. But yeah, when you look at like Native American societies, like they had at least 3, not 5 genders. So.
Did you say 5 genders?
5, yeah. Yeah, so they're like Navajo, they have 5. It's woman, man, woman who lives her life as a man, man who lives his life as a woman, and then the 5th one is like a combination of woman and man. So it's like non-binary. Yeah. So it's definitely there's a lot of history behind gender that I think that conversation kind of gets drowned out by some other stuff. And there's also, like, there's lots of people who just hate anything that's not what they think is right. So.
Or like not normalized, I guess.
Yeah. So, and it's like I was telling my dad the other day, like, most of the time when I have conversations with people about it, I mean, I meet anyone with empathy, and even if they're like screaming in my face, I'm gonna go to hell, because at that point I just look at them and I'm like, you need to look at yourself. Like you're screaming at a person just because like you don't agree, but like if you feel connected to your body and you feel like you are in the right body, like that's fabulous. I'm so happy for you. Like there are people in the world with that. is not this at all. So, and it's just a matter of like being able to open your mind to that. It's hard, you know. It took me a while, even like as a non-binary person, to like figure out that I was non-binary, because I just knew that I was different for really, you know, my whole life, and I knew that I didn't fit in anywhere, but I didn't know why really. And it wasn't until I went to college that someone explained to me what non-binary was, because also I'm from the Bible Belt, so like,
Yeah.
I didn't know like really what that meant, and you know, when it was explained, I was like, oh my god, that's it.
Wait, maybe that's me.
Yeah. I was like, oh shit. And then even from that point, it was like, okay, like how do I want to act on this, and like how do I want to change, you know, my self-expression and self-love, kind of, you know, accept myself for who I am and understand myself so that hopefully I can get other people to understand me.
Yeah. Do you feel like kind of your identity impacts the type of art you make?
It comes out sometimes, mostly not. I don't really make a lot of like, I don't use it as like the content in my art, but it definitely comes out sometimes. Just like I like notice it. Like I do a lot of stuff with rainbows because I like colors, but you know that like sequence of colors definitely like signals signifies like, you know, pride and the LGBT, you know, queer community. Um, but I don't know. Sometimes it's like really subconscious. Like I made some vases at the Chrysler, one blow slot, and I realized that I had made a vase that looked like a uterus because it had these handles on the top of it. And then I made this other vase that had handles on the bottom, and it kind of looked like a dick. And then I made this third one that was just like this really weird shape. And I was like, ha! Like, look what I did! Like, I didn't even try. So, but yeah, so it like it seeps through because it is, you know, a part of who I am and how I interact with people. But um, so far, I have not made any art that was like, this is the concept and the content that I wanted to.
Yeah. So something I feel like is my experience, like in the hot shop, I feel like it feels a little bit more masculine in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like maybe that kind of impacts you in any way or not? Or do you agree with that, I guess? Like, what's your experience of that?
So I think that there have definitely been shops that I've been into that I mean, I don't think that masculinity is necessarily a bad thing unless it becomes toxic.
Mm-hmm.
So I have never really been in a glass studio where I've seen toxic masculinity happening. I mean, I'm sure that it happens in studios, but I haven't, you know, I've only ever been treated like I don't know what I'm doing because I'm a beginner. At least that's how I feel. And never because, you know, I was perceived as a woman or perceived as a non-binary person. But it's definitely interesting. Like when I first went to the Chrysler, their hot shop has a very feminine energy, and because they have like a lot of women working in there, and I was like, this is great. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be awesome. And it was awesome, but what I found was like it's not actually that different because when people are blowing glass, like I feel like our identities melt away a little bit and we just become the glass, you know, when we focus in on it. And so like it stops mattering, you know, about masculine or feminine energy in there or like what's going on. As long as it's good vibes, like that's all I care about.
Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I just like, it's interesting to know everyone's experience, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
do you feel like there's anything else you would like to share that kind of sticks out to you in your life or experiences?
Nothing
Or
is
like,
really coming to my mind.
or like anything you would want to say to other non-binary or queer people in the glass community?
Hit me up, let's be friends. Because yeah, it's kind of rare. I'm trying to think of other non-binary people I've met. I think it's like maybe two in the glass world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know that it's not a huge number, but I guess I would say to those people, if they're watching, that you're not alone. You should all.
Cool. Sweet. Do you want to end it at that?
Sure.
So thanks for chatting with me.